A very good morning, everyone. Welcome to StudyIQ English. Welcome to the Hindu news analysis session with me. I'm Soumya. Like every day, you and I will together analyze the Hindu newspaper, the New Delhi edition for today, and that is 29th September 2025. So, almost we are hitting the close of the month, and it was a very, very eventful month, you will agree, not just for India, but I think for the whole global community. And even today, as we are summing up the September month of 2025, there are so many questions we are left with. Not only the question about President Trump's economic, political attitude towards India, but also the ongoing UNGA summit, whether India will be able to balance this delicate global diplomacy through its very, very smart strategic autonomy based foreign policy. So these are so many questions that we are thinking about. And yes, definitely we need a monthly compilation of all news, all the government schemes, all the important Supreme Court jurisdictions, and that is something we shall be doing this coming week. With regards to the PDF, I think most of the PDFs should be uploaded, and those which are remaining shall also be done by today. And now, once again, a very good morning, Pranarthi, Order, Dipesh, Vikash, Nagulan. I'm so happy to see you. Let's begin this week of exciting news, evolving international relations, only at Study IQ English. So let's get going with today's news agenda. So for today, I have taken seven articles. Seven articles because these are the ones which are mostly UPSC relevant. The first two articles have been picked up from the editorial page, that's page number 6. Very good morning, Saurav. And now let's quickly see what these articles are about. The first article, page number 6, editorial article. Article is asking, in the context of India, as today on 29 September we celebrate International Day of Awareness about food loss and wastage. We are asking a question, why is so much food, one, getting lost, two, getting wasted? There is a difference between food loss and food wastage. What are the reasons that in 2025 we are still looking at so much food waste and food loss? Second, in India also, especially in urban India, there is a lot of food wastage going on. Is that good given the fact that there are still lakhs of people around the world who are sleeping on an empty stomach each night, especially the areas that are war ridden, like, for example, the West Gaza area, many pockets in Ukraine, many villages and tribal belts in sub Saharan Africa, as well as the poor communities of South America and South Asia. So, while the Sustainable Development Goal number 1, number 2, number 3, all of them talk about creating income equality, creating food access, creating proper access to basic living standard, but still we are looking at so much wastage today. Today is also the World Heart Day. Absolutely. So therefore we have another article on that, Dipesh. That's a lovely observation. Very good morning, Dhanu. Very good morning, Veda. Good morning, dear Bulbul. And yes, India has won the Asia Cup. Absolutely. Congratulations to everyone on that. Yesterday was a big night, I know. Now let's get going with the article itself. As I said, September 29, that is today, we are observing the IDAFLW. That means International Day for Awareness about Food Loss and Wastage. What is the aim of celebrating this day? The aim of celebrating this day is to highlight the global crisis of food loss and food waste, which undermine both food security as well as our target of achieving climate goals. If India as a country, as one of the largest democracies of the world and among the top 5 economies of the world, has committed to reduce and completely finish our carbon footprint by 2070, then there are many other countries across the world who have created similar targets. Most countries by 2030 are planning to reduce their carbon emission by at least 35 to 45% of their GDP. But these targets are looking very ambitious right now because the reality is quite different. Globally, about 1/3 of the entire food that is getting cultivated or produced is either lost or wasted. So, what is the difference between food loss and food wastage? And in India, are we doing something to tackle the problem? Well, it all begins by understanding what do you mean by food loss. Now, food loss simply means a reduction in the total quantity or the reduction in the total quality of food in production process itself. This is a supplier side problem. For example, too much food got wasted because rainfall did not happen on time. Too much food got wasted because there was too much monsoon rain. Crops got destroyed. Or there was a pest attack. Or there was some leakage in transportation, processing, and harvesting time. So, therefore, all the food that gets lost during the supply side process, this could mean a reduction in the total quantity of food that we have been able to produce, or a reduction in the total quality of food that's being produced world over. This is known as food loss. Talking about food wastage, this is a consumer side problem. So, this is not a supply side problem, this is a demand or a consumer side issue. Here, the total amount of food that is getting discarded, that is dumped, that is wasted at the retail level, at the consumer level, restaurants, hotels, cafes, wedding parties, birthday parties, households, supermarkets, all the food that is getting wasted by the consumers or by the retail shops, that is known as food wastage. Together, both of them cause a massive problem when it comes to food security and food equality in the world. In India, since we are a developing economy, the problem is more about food wastage. In India, more food is getting wasted, and much more than that, the food is getting lost. So, for any developing country like India, it could be Brazil, it could be India, it could be Vietnam, it could be Mexico. In such developing economies, majority of food is lost. After that, some food is getting wasted. Why? Because these are the countries where supply chain is very inefficient. It is not proper. For example, let's take India's case study. In India, even today, agriculture is dependent on southwest monsoon. In case there is a deficit of monsoon like last year, El Nino, too many crops, especially crops like paddy, they experience a downfall, they experience wastage. Similarly, like this year, there is too much flooding, as Dipesh is mentioning. Even today, Punjab is grappling with floods. Now, same thing is happening in Mumbai. Mumbai is also Maharashtra. Many districts are experiencing too much water. Same thing is happening in Uttarakhand right now. So, whenever there is too much flooding, excessive rainfall, or something that we are calling as cloud burst, flash flood, there also a lot of food is getting wasted. So all these are related to supply side problems. Plus, there is a lack of cold storage. There is a lack of proper roads. Transportation is also deteriorated. Supply chain also doesn't have cold storage transportation facilities. Warehouses are still very outdated. Monitoring is not there. All these problems create food loss. From the supply side itself, there is supply chain inefficiency. But when we talk about developed countries, let's talk about US. Let's talk about the countries of European Union. Let's talk about countries like Japan, Australia. In all these countries, there is more food loss. Okay, in all these countries, there is much more food loss because of food getting wasted. Wastage is a bigger problem here. So you see, it is a clear-cut scenario. For developing countries like India, there is a problem of food loss. Supply chain is poor. Harvest and cultivation is the problem. In advanced developed countries like Australia, Japan, America, EU, the real problem is that of food wastage. Here, people are quite rich. Consumers have a lot of money to buy food, throw extensive parties, too much culture of restaurant and cafe based food eating, and that leads to too much food getting discarded also. So here the wastage is consumer driven, while in the developing countries it was more supplier and production driven. That's the difference we are looking at. But added up together, both these are causing a massive crisis of food insecurity in the whole world. As people in the Gaza are waiting for 12 hours to get 1 kg of wheat or 1 kg of rice to cook. Here are countries of the European Union and America, where consumers are discarding double the food in the same week. You see, there is a lot of global disparity here. So, if you talk about India's food challenge, we also know that India is not only today one of the largest producers of global food. Yes, India is the top producer of food globally. But India also has the most elaborate PDS system, public distribution system, where through ration cards, we provide distribution of food grains to all the families that are below poverty line or just above poverty line from fair ration shops. We provide them free or very, very subsidized food grains. All this is wonderful. But at the same time, India is also experiencing a lot of food loss. For example, a study that was done by Ministry of Food Processing Industries, the MOFPI. It is a study that comes from 2022. And according to this study, during the post-harvest season, in India, about 1 in 4 people are sleeping empty stomach. They are not sufficiently fed because of the amount of food that gets lost. Similarly, the same study of MOFPI 2022 also says rupees 1.5 trillion are getting lost annually because of food loss. That's a major amount. So rupees 1.5 trillion is the annual amount of money that we are losing because of rapid food loss at the supply side. This is about 3 to 7%, 3.7% of agri GDP. So if you look at the agriculture GDP, agri GDP, about 3.7% of the total food that's produced in the country after getting harvested is lost because of supply side problems. Yes, it could be lack of proper storage, excessive amount of flooding, total lack of monsoon, pest and rodent when it comes to warehousing and storage, lack of cold storage for perishable commodities. You can blame it on anything. So many protests and dharnas, because of that, there is no efficient flow of roads and transportation, no matter what is the cause. But the reality is 3.7% of agri GDP annually is lost in India in food loss, and that's a lot of loss. Talking about perishable items such as fruits plus vegetable, we experience a loss that is as high as 10 to 15%. So the entire amount of fruits and vegetables that are being cultivated, 15% of them get lost. Similarly, if you talk about paddy, rice, then we can safely say 4.8% of total paddy that's getting produced gets wasted. Talking about wheat, that's the staple diet of majority of Indians, particularly in the north central belt of India. Total amount of wheat that's produced, 4.2% of that is also getting wasted, and these are all significant losses. Significant losses. Now, when we talk about paddy, look at rice. Rice as a kind of crop is also a very dangerous crop because paddy or rice, on which majority of Indians depend as their staple food, particularly in the southern belts and northeastern belts, paddy is the mainstay, paddy is the main source of food. But at the same time, paddy cultivation also is not very climate friendly. As we have seen before, according to a study done by Food and Agriculture Organization FAO, about 33 million tons of carbon dioxide emission annually is related to paddy cultivation. Rice also contributes to methane emission because for growing rice, you need pools of water. Water ponds have to be created. Because of that stagnated water, there is a constant emission of methane and carbon dioxide. As the study by FAO commits, that the emission is close to about 33 million ton of carbon dioxide every year, owing to paddy cultivation. So paddy is not a climate friendly crop. And despite the fact that we grow so much paddy, 4.8% of paddy is getting wasted. So that's again a loss from both the sides. Firstly, the loss to climate in growing paddy. Second, the paddy itself not being consumed and getting wasted. So, what is the benefit? There is no benefit from either side. Now, talking about the loss of nutrition, yes, in India, where the multidimensional poverty is quite high, particularly among the vulnerable communities, as per the Global Multidimensional Poverty Index 2021, 5 out of every 6 multidimensionally poor people in India are either women, scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, OBC, or physically disabled people. So, with this level of food insecurity among the vulnerable, if we waste 1.5 trillion rupees annually on food wastage, how will we ensure nutrition to our people? At the same time, it is a waste of resources, it is a waste of agriculture land that's getting used up for cultivation, it's a waste of water. It is also a major loss to the income of so many farmers. Besides, as I said, it also aggravates climate problem because when we grow crops like rice, especially through monoculture, yes, we are emitting massive methane and carbon dioxide. At the same time, if we look at rice, the problem of methane, the very shocking reality that comes is that 10 million tons of methane is also produced annually only because people grow paddy or people grow rice. That's again a major source of greenhouse gas emission, CO2 emission, and it will not let us achieve our climate agenda by 2030 for sure. So, what are the causes in India of such heavy amount of food wastage? Remember, as we already studied, wastage is a supply side problem. Okay, wastage is a problem because people throw the food. They have too much. It is more than enough for them. So they waste it, they throw it, and the poor are not getting it at all. Now, with this in mind, let's understand in India, we also are strongly committed to the Sustainable Development Goal 12.3 Part 1. Under this goal, we have to reduce food wastage and we have to cut down our per capita food wastage to half of existing level by 2030. But are we able to achieve Sustainable Development 12.3 that wants to reduce the food wastage to half or food loss to half? No, it doesn't look like we are anywhere near. And what are the main causes of this problem? One of the main cause is that in India we have not achieved proper refrigerated transportation. When it comes to large containers, large trucks, which carry food crops from one state to another, fruit and vegetable from one area to another. Intrastate, interstate, we lack refrigerated transportation. So many of these food items get destroyed because of heat, because of poor packaging, because of crushing. Another problem is we also have poor cold supply chains. We do not have sufficient refrigeration or AC, either at the warehouse level or at the packaging level or at the transportation level. It's a loss in all these processes. Similarly, in India, sometimes because of excessive rainfall, sometimes because of a communal violence, transport is shut down. Sometimes there is a dharna or a strike. That leads to the roads getting blocked. What happens to all these perishable commodities, dairy products, fruit and vegetables? They start getting rotten, and hence that becomes a complete case of food loss. Similarly, in India, we have adopted scientific storage driven by artificial intelligence at a very limited scale. Today, we need better AI driven technologies if you want to make sure that all the food that's produced is supplied properly to the last mile. We have to reduce food wastage at any cost, and that is something we lack. Another problem is, has the government initiative actually helped in controlling the problem of food wastage in India, food loss in India? Well, the Indian government is committed to PM Kisan Sampada Yojana. PM Kisan Sampada. Very good morning, Prakash. PM Kisan Sampada Yojana. Under this scheme, the government spoke about modernizing food processing and cold chain infrastructure. Government also created in various cities the mega food parks, and many other minor cold chain schemes were also included. The government also tried to create a public private partnership model where many private companies who are providing cold storage transport solutions or cold storage supply chain warehousing solutions were now providing easy adoption to the government. But still, it is very limited. And as you're saying, Dipesh, post harvest infrastructure is very important. What does it mean? After the crop is getting harvested, we need proper storing, warehousing, proper supply packaging, then at the same time, proper transportation, proper unloading of that transportation. All these mean handling of food after it is harvested. So it needs both skilled manpower also, excellent packaging material also, at the same time good amount of AC and refrigeration also, because we are talking about perishable food commodities, dairy, fruits, vegetables, and even if you talk about paddy or wheat, they will also not sustain too much heat or manhandling. If they are not packaged properly, rodents will come and attack them, fungus will happen, and if there is no proper AC or refrigeration, once again they start getting rotten. There is too much humidity, food will not last at all. And in India, with 28 states, where every state is specializing in its own production, if you need to supply apples, say from Himachali Kinnaur, or if you want to supply apricots from Uttarakhand, you cannot expect to do that without a proper cold and refrigerated facility. It will die in the process. Food will not last that long. Absolutely. That's also a valid comment order. Correct. Various kind of cattle, cow, they are also responsible for methane production. So again, dairy farming is also not a very climate sustainable model. I so agree there. A very valid point. So if this is the problem in India, then has the whole world taken some initiatives? What about the global initiatives then to solve the problem of food waste plus the problem of food loss? Now, never forget the fact that in India, we have a major problem of food loss, supply side. In very developed countries and in some cities in India, urban India, we have the problem of food waste. Here, people are willingly throwing away the food. They waste and discard the food. That is consumer side problem. Supply side problem is that of food loss, which is more dangerous actually. Now, talking about global initiatives, yes, under the Food and Agriculture Organization, there is a scheme that is known as FLAPP. It was adopted back in 2023. It stands for your measuring, monitoring various agriculture production and food items. So this FLAPP 2023 created by Food and Agriculture Organization is trying to track, monitor and measure the amount of food loss across the world. At different levels, how much food is getting wasted. Today, 30 plus countries across the world are already using this model to measure their own food wastage and food loss, of course. Similarly, World Health Organization talks about green climate funds. It is also something that has backing by other UN agencies, and under green climate funds, many private companies are also now participating in this to see whether we can give rewards to those companies, those organizations which have saved food, and those which have wasted too much. They perhaps may have to buy extra credit or licensing from others. So it is a form of fining those who waste too much food. Then we can also talk about how in different countries, at a local level, there is more awareness now about how can we therefore consume organic food, local food, which will also reduce wastage, plus also trying to create a circular economy model, that food that is absolutely rotten, why cannot be used? Why can't it be used to produce biogas, ethanol, pesticides, fertilizers, organic manures? It can also be remodeled into usage rather than completely being dumped as wasted commodity. So all these initiatives can be taken together. They can help us in utilizing the food that is wasted. But the bigger challenge is to control the food loss. So let's understand, if we control food loss at the supplier side, definitely it will mean more food available for people on the ground. And then comes the second step, creating awareness about food wastage in high income countries. And whichever food is now getting lost or wasted, totally as a part of circular economy, it can be utilized as raw material for producing more energy, more agriculture products. And then, of course, you have the FLAPP by the FAO that is also being adopted by the countries, a fast track application which tracks the amount of food that is actually lost or wasted. Therefore, it also speaks about possibilities of protecting that food. So now quickly, let's have a look at the question. Yes, this article is absolutely GS paper 2, vulnerable communities, problems of hunger, poverty. It is also related to GS paper 3, climate mitigation, rice production, its relationship to methane output. It is also related to food security, sustainable development goals. And the question says, look at the following statements regarding food loss app, FLAP, by the FAO, World Health Organization, especially by the FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization. One, it has been developed by FAO to help track food loss across various value chains, supply chain. Two, the app is currently being used in more than 30 countries to support ultimately Sustainable Development Goal 12.3. Sustainable Development Goal 12.3 talks about reducing food loss and food wastage. 3. In India, FLAP is getting implemented under the Pradhan Mantri Kisan Sampada Yojana by the Ministry of Food Processing Industries. So, which of these statements is or are valid? So, Dipesh and Veda have already answered. No, I did speak about it quickly, Veda. I did speak about it. See, my dear, I'll show you here. Look at this. Across 30 plus countries, now the flap is getting utilized. The purpose is to track the amount of food that's lost and it's wasted. Maybe I should have written it more clearly. Okay. So, which of these statements are valid? Since there is a confusion in the answer, let's try to solve it. See, the first statement is valid, yes, because FLAPP, the Food Loss App, which tracks and monitors the amount of global food wastage and loss across supply chains, value chains, has been created by FAO. That's a valid statement. Second, the app is currently being used in more than 30 countries. That's also correct. And we also know that yes, Sustainable Development 12.3 talks about controlling food loss and wastage. This is also correct. 1 and 2 both are correct. Now look at the third one. In India, if you see, FLAP is implemented under PMKSY. That is not correct. That is not correct. Why is it not correct? Because the PMKSY, Pradhan Mantri Kisan Sampada Yojana, is a welfare scheme of Indian government. It's a purely indigenous, Indianized scheme to prevent food loss from happening, to create more cold infrastructure in terms of supply chain, storage, and warehousing. That probably has nothing to do with the FLAPP because FLAPP is only an app, an application to track food wastage. But under PMKSY, we are looking at not only enabling Indian community, Indian people to save food from getting wasted, we are also looking at modernizing our cold storage infrastructure. So these are not exactly the same thing. So therefore, we can say only 1 and 2 are valid. So very well answered, Dipesh there. Apart from that, well answered. Veda, Order, Lenny. I'm glad that you're trying. So happy. Absolutely A is the valid answer, okay? Because D is not related to FLAP. It's not. Second article, again editorial page, page number 6. This is a slightly new kind of article. It relates really well to your GS paper 3 because GS paper 3 talks about Indian economy. And here also we are looking at absolutely Dipesh, valid statement. So PMKSY, the Kisan Sampada Yojana, is not only about preventing food loss and cold storage, it is basically about developing a post-harvest infrastructure. Very good. Storing, warehousing, packaging, and then supply chain. Very good morning, Thanu. Very good morning, Reshma. Yes, so A is the answer. Well done, my dear. Now, GS paper 3, Science and Tech, Indian economy. And here we are looking at the problem of how AI will tomorrow, in the long term future, create the prospect of job loss and income inequality. So the article examines artificial intelligence or AI as the key cause for future job insecurity as well as income inequality among people. So what does the article say? Well, the article is introducing a new term for you. This is known as Engels pause. You might have heard about the word Frederick Engels. Who was Frederick Engels? You know, if you have studied about Marxian theory in political science and IR, in GS paper 3, GS paper 2, in history, in economics, Karl Marx was somebody who was not only a leading economist, but also a major critic of capitalism across the world. We know that for Karl Marx, the reality of society is only one, that is historical materialism. And historical materialism means in every society, whether it's the primitive society, whether it's the modern industrial society, ultimately, the main structure of society is money or economic resources, means of production. All other resources are based on means of production. And the relations that people have with each other, various classes in society, high class, low class, middle class, all the relations that they have with each other, that is also determined by means of production. So for Karl Marx, his theory was very simple. MOP determines ROP. Your relations to the means of production will determine your social status in society. For example, those who have the ownership of factories and machines are the bourgeoisie. Bourgeoisie are the rich people, the businessmen. Those who are the laborers who work on them are the proletariat. They have nothing. They are the poor wage labor. And every society has the same problem, class struggle, where the bourgeoisie is exploiting the proletariat and proletariat works for a very minimum wage in extremely exploitative culture all his life. One day, when the workers understand that too much exploitation has happened, they unite together. The workers of the world come together, and that leads to a major revolution. For example, France Revolution, Russian Revolution, where then they completely kill the bourgeoisie, they remove the bourgeoisie, and a new society comes that is more based on equality and socialism. That's primary idea of Karl Marx. So Karl Marx, very close ally, and another very important Marxist was Frederick Engels. Frederick Engels was also the famous author of the work Communist Manifesto. After his name, a new word has been created. The word was created by a very, very well known Nobel Prize winning economist known as Robert Allen. Robert Allen gave this word Engels pause. What is Engels pause? Engels pause is a situation where in a given society, despite too much productivity, too much economic growth, there is a lack of proportional welfare among the majority of people. Today, some people are saying Indian society also has the same situation. We say that India is the third largest economy almost. India's GDP has been doing very well. Inflation has been under control. All in all, India is becoming Atmanirbhar across defense, across space technology. 13% people have come out of multidimensional poverty. So, which means we are having a good economic growth. But at the same time, in India, we still have disproportionately high number of people who are unemployed, underemployed, extremely poor, below the poverty line, hungry and experiencing lack of proper house, homeless people. So this is exactly Engels' pause. When in a society, in an economy, there is too much economic growth, there is prosperity, but that doesn't lead to proportional welfare of the majority people on the ground. And the word itself, as I said, was given by a very, very famous Nobel winning economist known as Robert Allen. He gave this word back in 2001, long back. So, how does Engels' pause manifest in today's society? A very good example from history could be British society. We all know in Britain, industrial revolution started from 17th century onwards. There was massive mechanization. Machines were being used. There was huge output that was created. Factories were created. Urbanization started happening. But despite all these industrial benefits and too much mechanization, in reality, the real wages of the common workers on the ground were stagnated for decades altogether. It took about 40 years for the workers in Britain after industrial revolution to improve their salaries, to get some rights about trade unions, about worker welfare, about some hike in their job conditions and some improvement in their salary. It took years altogether. Until then, workers were experiencing poor working conditions, lot of income inequality, very less income hike, and extensive number of working hours. They were living in poor conditions altogether. So, social reforms, trade unions, labor unions, and public schooling came much later in Britain. For decades after Industrial Revolution, there was an Engels pause. Economic growth was too much, but the workers were suffering day in and day night. But today also, in 2025, as the whole world is looking at AI ruling the world very soon, again we are moving towards the same problem, the problem of Engels pause. Why? Because in today's society, in today's 2025 world, people are saying AI will now become the next power. AI will rule the agriculture. AI will rule the defense. AI will rule medical science. In fact, AI will also determine public transportation, driverless taxis, doctorless operations. Even the teachers and the professors will be replaced by AI in times to come, let alone the factory workers across so many labor intensive industries. We have seen through so many discussions that in India, if Indian exports to America were about $48 million, in this, the major share came from labor intensive sectors like gems and jewelry, textile, footwear, apparel. So these sectors are giving so much employment to poor people in India. But if everything is taken away by AI, artificial intelligence, and robotics, then where will these people go? So today in 2025, once again, the problem is the same. As AI will now pioneer the world, a very well known researcher named as Geoffrey Hinton, a very famous person known as Geoffrey Hinton, has said that AI benefits will be limited to a minority number of people. Only the top notch investors, only the top notch businessmen, and only very, very few companies, doctors will experience the benefit of artificial intelligence. But for the workers, both formal sector and informal sector, it will be complete loss. It will be about job displacement. It will be about stagnant wages. It will be about rising cost, rising investment that they have to put in reskilling themselves. Now imagine somebody who's an engineer and who's earning very good salary today. Talk about them 10 years later from now. Their skills will become outdated. This is also something that relates very closely to structural and cyclical unemployment. Over a period of time, the workers in an economy start becoming outdated in terms of their skills. For example, today I can say I'm a teacher. I may be aware about various subjects. I may also now be comfortable about enabling the use of technology like online classroom, various applications, AI mediated learning. Today I can do that. But what about 10 years later? 10 years later, perhaps the education, edtech technology may also become very, very modern. Won't you agree there? Yes, do you agree or not? Yes, Reshma, Dhanu, Dipesh, order, Veda, anybody? Saurav, do you agree? That 10 years later, the technology may become very advanced. Maybe at that point, me and teachers like myself may have to learn a lot. It will be a complete jump of our skills where we have to once again engage with newer technology. During COVID pandemic times, so many people experienced that problems. Teachers had to take suddenly the class online. Doctors had to do consultations online. And none of these people were very, very comfortable with the online platform because people were used to working offline. It was a major change. It was a major training that went into using all this ICT technology. But tomorrow, when AI will rule the world, everything will become automated. Then what will happen to the workers like us? We will have to really reskill ourselves. That means more money we will have to invest from our current salary in learning the new tools, in taking corporate trainings, in taking more ICT based AI trainings. So, is that not a loss? Definitely, it is a loss, Pranarthi, right? It is a loss. Especially after COVID, absolutely. We had to take that jump. Today also we will have to take that loss. Yes, absolutely, Reshma, after COVID. Yes, Lenny, we had to. And tomorrow again we will have to. Absolutely order. It is about reinvesting in human capital. Very well said. We will have to keep reinvesting in human capital. So will we not experience that extra loss? And still we will face the fear of job displacement. Tomorrow, somebody will say now only robotics will take up teaching. Then what will people like us do with our experience that we have? Nobody knows. because AI will be more efficient in that case. Already chat GPT is there. Tomorrow, maybe AI will become completely the ruler of teaching in school, colleges, in edtech industry. And that's when people like us will face major job displacement across various industries. As I said, factories, doctors, everyone. So there we have no choice but to constantly keep upscaling ourselves, constantly keep investing in that training and fresh learnings that we have to take. And still there is no guarantee of job. For example, we can take a cue from Philippines. In Philippines, there are call centers who are using AI generated co-pilots. Because of that, 30 to 35% efficiency has improved, but 40% workers of call centers have already lost their jobs. That's what happened recently in Philippines. Similarly, the companies will be more happy to adopt AI because AI always leads to higher productivity. AI always leads to higher efficiency. But the problem is without any increase in salary for the current workers. Like you saw the example from Philippines. In other countries also AI needs cloud computing, retraining into large language models. We need to learn data processing, data interpretation, data analytics. We need to be trained in cybersecurity. How will so many people do that? That's so sweet. Order says we protest against that. Yes, absolutely, I agree. But that's the future it looks like. Absolutely, Reshma, I was about to say that. Yes, Veda, absolutely, absolutely. Like in Albania. In Albania, they have already appointed one AI chatbot minister. Now, she is a minister, imagine, in the parliament, but she is a robot. So if it can happen in politics, it can happen everywhere, by the way. So you see, that's the problem right now. Suddenly, you cannot train your workers in all these things like large language model, data processing, data analytics. It needs years of training, but the AI is already there to rule the world. For the worker, staying employable in today's global market through coding camps, boot camps, certifications, workshops is not an easy job, by the way. It's not an easy job. It needs much more investment, just like the 19th century situation where industrialization happened, but the workers did not experience any improvement because the food prices were still very high. Today also same thing is going to happen. Although artificial intelligence is going to add $15.7 trillion to the global economy by 2030, but the benefits will be only taken by some countries like US, few nations of the EU and China, plus perhaps countries like Russia. For all other countries, it will become a massive loss for the workers, as globally people are experiencing the threat of job loss. According to a recent estimate created by International Monetary Fund in 2024, 40% of the jobs globally, 40% of the global jobs are being exposed today to the risk of AI, especially in the advanced economies. Job displacement is again a problem. AI is being used in airports. India's GMR is an example. Albania, latest minister in the parliament. Yes, she's an AI robot. Similarly, in China, you have AI powered hospitals. In Japan, restaurants and cafes are run by AI robots. Surgeries are happening in Japan that are completely conducted by AI. Even in India, there are certain partnership hospitals, private hospitals in partnership with Germany, Japan, Russia. A very good example is the Sakra Hospital. It's in Bengaluru. It has also introduced now the latest robotic surgery. So for minor procedures, robotic surgeries, they're very expensive, but they are doing it. So similarly, tomorrow teachers, professionals, lawyers, they will all face this kind of a risk. Is there a way forward? Yes, there are some solutions here. One solution is, as somebody here said, that we must restrict AI only to some sectors, like Veda said, not to all the sectors. Second solution could be a continuous reskilling. It is difficult, I know. It needs investment, I know, but there is no choice. We need to constantly reskill our doctors, teachers, lawyers, and the workers into latest AI technology. For example, in Singapore, there is a program called Skills Future Program, in which various people across the economy are every 6 months required to undergo fresh trainings and workshops to learn data analytics and AI. Second, a very good example could be the globally first AI university of the world, the first artificial intelligence university of the world situated in Abu Dhabi. by the name of MBZUI, the first AI university in Abu Dhabi that is teaching people various modules to learn various protocols in AI. At the same time, you have the robot tax. That could be a good thing to do. If you impose an extra tax called robot tax across various sectors which are using AI driven automation, especially in sectors which include too much technology, that also could lead to some equality. At the same time, the government will have to increase its spending on social welfare, like Skill India Mission, Startup India Mission, various schemes that will help farmers, various subsidies towards farmers, much more support to people for innovation. So these are the only solutions we can think of. But in reality, it is like we are looking at a future which is humanless, a future that is dictated by AI, not humans. Looks like a science fiction movie, but that could also be reality. After all, humans are humans, they are local, I agree. But still, we face that risk today. Question. Look at the following statements. One, the term Engels pause was popularized by economist, Nobel Prize winner Robert Allen to describe the paradox of rising industrial productivity but stagnant wages in the 19th century Britain. 2. Geoffrey Hinton used the comparison between Engels' pause to warn that in the modern society, artificial intelligence may create high economic output. Yes, it will create to productivity, but there is limited welfare for most workers. 3. In the context of technological change, Engels' pause shows that general purpose technologies are all the various technologies that are used in many, many sectors, including education, medicine, agriculture, IT, all governed by AI. So, all the AI technologies often generate immediate and equal distribution of benefits across society. It's an easy question. Absolutely, Reshma, Dipesh. Well answered there, everybody. Order, Reshma, Dipesh. But the third statement here cannot be correct. The first is correct. Yes, the word Engels pause is about the paradox that industrialization increases, but still the workers are not having any benefit. Just like today, Geoffrey Hinton said, AI will lead to productivity, but the salary of the workers will not increase. In fact, they may experience displacement of jobs. So, first two statements are correct. But look at the third statement. It says AI driven technologies will create equal and immediate benefits to everybody. That will not happen. AI will never do that because AI will only benefit few countries, very advanced countries like Russia, China, EU, and America. At the same time, even in these countries, AI benefits will be limited to some investors and some companies. The very, very highly skilled AI skilled workers. The remaining people will experience job loss, displacement, and lack of salary. They will not be employable either. That is, cyclical unemployment will impact them. So, 3 is not valid, making A as the correct answer. Well answered, everyone. Yes, Dhanu. Yes, Pranarthi. Absolutely. Now, the next article is about GS paper 3. It is about health and well being among Indian people. And the article is talking about CVD. What is CVD? Cardiovascular disease. In India, we are experiencing a very early onset of CVD. Today, the majority of people, 65% people who experience cardiovascular disease are less than 35 years of age. That's a shocking thing. That's a shocking thing. Can you imagine? Today in India, 65% of those who have some or the other CVD, cardiovascular, heart disorder, are under the age of 30 years. Especially after corona pandemic, the rate has increased multifold. Why is it unfortunate? Because India is the youngest country of the world. We all know that India has a huge demographic dividend. Because we have a young country, average age of an Indian is right now 28 years old. Such a young country means majority of India's population is between the age of 15 to 59. With such young population, rather 49, with such young population, we are living and enjoying the demographic dividend, the advantage of a young demography. But in this, if 65% of those who have heart disorder are under 35, is that not a paradox? Is it not the same situation where we can safely say that rising cardiovascular disease among the young is converting demographic dividend into a demographic disaster? Demographic dividend into a demographic wastage. There is a rising burden of cardiovascular disease in the young adults in India, especially in the age group of 20 to 40 years. And this phenomena has become more visible after COVID-19 pandemic. If we talk about the latest hospital data that's collected across various public and private hospitals in India from the period of 2020 to 2030, 50% 50% of heart attack patients are projected to be under 40 years of age, which means until 2025, the data has proven that most people with heart attacks are under 40. We can safely predict that by 2030 also, majority 40 to 50% those who will get heart attack will be under the age of 40 years. They will be less than 40. Now, this is a rising health concern. Why is it a rising health concern? Because if these people who are so young are experiencing heart disease, one, India's human capital resource, demographic dividend is getting wasted. India's economic productivity is getting wasted. Demographic dividend is leading to become demographic disaster. Now, as beautifully as Order has commented, what are the leading causes of increased cardiovascular disease among young people? The first statement, as you've made, Order, is the most valid one. It is about sedentary lifestyle. Why sedentary lifestyle? Because people who are under 40 are also the people who are experiencing too much amount of routine chronic stress. They are always under stress. They are under stress because they are observing strict office duty timings. Office schedules are hectic, even across most multinational companies, across most business houses. Duty schedules are very tight. They are working long hours to deliver productivity, especially those who work for American and European companies. They sometimes don't get proper sleep. Call center workers, they don't get proper sleep. Doctors and nurses don't get proper sleep. They are often the ones who do night duty. So that is also one reason. Another reason is that they are also the people who are engaging in habits like smoking, drug abuse, alcohol consumption as stress busters. But these are also taking a toll on their health. They are the people who also consume too much junk, or if not junk, then processed food. Unfortunately, even if they think they are eating home cooked food, their home cooked food is also high in fat, sugar, and salt. The HFSS content of their food is quite on the higher side. Doctors are saying 50% problems among youth are all lifestyle disorders, which also means, yes, Indian youth is now becoming highly insulin resistant. If you have huge insulin resistance for few years, you ultimately become a diabetic, type 2 diabetes. That is not genetic, that is lifestyle oriented. Therefore, according to the article, India is also the heart attack capital of the world. Heart attack capital of the world. Majority young people in India are getting heart attacks. Plus, there is family history responsible. Genetics are responsible for early heart attack, but more than genetics, it's your lifestyle, which severely puts you at risk. So these are certain factors for a high number of CVDs, cardiovascular disease among the young. Is the government doing anything to control the problem? Yes. Long back, the government initiated the Poshan Abhiyan, the Eat Right mission in India. The purpose was primarily to tackle malnourishment, hunger, and stunting and wasting among children. But one of the targets, medium and long term target, was also to control heart diseases, cardiovascular, and diabetic diseases in India by creating a mission, awareness among people to consume the right kind of foods. Second step that the Indian government has taken is to encourage millet farming. The third step is to encourage under India's midday meal scheme or Pradhan Mantri Poshan scheme to also create awareness about consuming organic foods at the village level. These are certain things that are being done. Similarly, you have the National Program for Prevention and Control of Cancer, Diabetes, Cardiovascular, and Stroke. You have Ayushman Bharat, the free insurance, health insurance card, Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana, PMJAY, to give insurance cards to the people below poverty line so that they can get free treatment of primary, secondary, and tertiary health at government and some private hospitals. Yes, the government is encouraging AI, robotics, teleconsultation, and digital health initiatives like e-Sanjeevani portal. But the problem is still persisting because in 2024, only 25% of Indians had the capacity to understand their own symptoms of heart attack. Long, prolonged physical exhaustion, heart pain, sweating, trembling, diarrhea, unexplained diarrhea, nervousness, palpitations, all these could mean early warnings of heart attack. Muscular weakness could also indicate heart attack. But still, the awareness of identifying heart attack, the ability to give immediate medical response, paramedical knowledge is very poor among Indian population. Majority number of times, even at the level of government emergency, government hospital emergencies, cases of heart attack are dismissed as gastric issues, muscle pains, self-diagnosis, online diagnosis. Unregistered private clinics are also common, which means mortality is still happening in cases where it could be preventable. Is there a solution? Yes, the biggest is lifestyle modification to encourage forcefully among school children, college going children, corporate workers, bank, government employees to take up at least bi weekly yoga, stress management session, and proper diet. Understanding food labels created by FSSAI to read whether which food has a high level of trans fat, sugar, and salt to stop consuming that. Regular screenings for heart diseases, blood pressure, very important. Cardiac calcium scoring to show how many of your arteries are calcified. That leads to coronary heart blockage. So we can prevent that by doing a cardiac calcium scoring, but that awareness is not there in people. Plus, these are expensive examinations. They are not covered through most insurance. Then mass campaigns, just like in India, we promoted campaign against polio, against tuberculosis, against smallpox. We can have the same campaign for cardiovascular also. We need to train more people into paramedical, the frontline workers like Asha, accredited social healthcare activist, the last mile door to door health providers, auxiliary nurse midwife, primary health care center staff, Anganwadi staff, NGO workers can be trained to identify and promote awareness of cardiovascular symptoms. Government-based camps can be installed in rural areas on a monthly basis to check people for regular ECGs, regular cardiac calcium scoring, regular BP monitoring. Similarly, mobile applications can use health monitoring apps, pulse rate, blood pressure can be measured. AI enabled early detection of heart attack tools can be created. Plus, the government has to further put more GST and put more food items into the sin goods category. Right now, as the GST has been revised, there is a 40% tax on few luxury and sin good items that includes alcohol and tobacco. Perhaps we can also put sugary and junk food and salty drinks in this category so that they become less affordable to people. So that's the pitch of the article. Quickly, the question. With reference to increasing amount of cardiovascular diseases, look at the following statements. One says lifestyle factors like smoking, alcohol, stress, lack of sleep, they all contribute to nearly half of the risk of heart attack in young adults. Two, under Ayushman Bharat, health and wellness centers. Services for screening, prevention, and management of non-communicable diseases are included. And three, as per the recent data of 2024, a majority of Indians are aware about the symptoms of heart attack, with 60% having an awareness about heart attack symptoms early. Four, the National Program on Control of Various Diseases like diabetes, cardio, it focuses only on urban tertiary hospitals where surgeries and specialized treatment takes place and does not involve primary level interventions. You can try to answer the question. Absolutely, 1 is correct. So if 1 is correct, D and B can be safely eliminated. Always use elimination. Now, if you look at 3, 3 is completely incorrect. As per the article, only 24% Indians have a knowledge of heart attack symptoms. 3 is also not correct. So if 3 is not correct, absolutely C is the valid answer. 1 is valid and 2 is valid. Whereas 3 and 4 are not making any sense. So very well answered, Dipesh, Vikash, Reshma, everybody. Absolutely, absolutely, Veda. What should the person do? Correct. Correct. It is about your food choices. Nobody can force you in that. I agree, Veda. That's valid. That's a very strange paradox here. Now, the next article will relate to GS paper 3. Let's quickly do it. It is about financial relationship between center and the states. It is about fiscal policy of the central government. So we can mention that here we include the central and the state finance commissions. We can also here talk about the GST revenue collection. Ultimately, the article is discussing the financial situation of India's states. So what is the main argument of the article? Article says, according to a recent report created by the Comptroller and Auditor General of India, CAG report, it has been realized that in India, for last 10 to 20 years, there is always a problem of states not being happy with the amount of money that they have, either through revenue or through the support from the union government. The states are always feeling that we are not getting enough money. For example, as Punjab is dealing with floods right now, there is a complaint from the state government that center government has not given us enough relief package. Similar was the complaint created by states such as Sikkim and Himachal recently, that we have not got enough money from the government. And when the state is ruled by an opposition party, the problem becomes only more critical. At the same time, in the last 5 years, we have seen how certain states like Kerala and Tamil Nadu and Karnataka have also expressed their unhappiness towards the Central Finance Commission. They say that the criteria of vertical devolution. What is vertical devolution? Now, please understand, under India's Central Finance Commission. Very good. Article 148 to 151 of the Constitution. Brilliant order. Very well said. So, Central Finance Commission is required on the basis of some criterias to share the level of money, the share of taxation and revenue that they receive with the state governments. This is vertical devolution, money that comes from Central Finance Commission to state finance commissions. But apart from that, there is another criteria. There is something called horizontal devolution. Among the states, out of 28 states in India, which state will get what amount of share? Which state will be given what amount of money is also decided by the Central Finance Commission based on some criterias. And this is known as horizontal devolution, the sharing of the same money between the states. So one is vertical, money comes from union to the states. Next is horizontal. Among the states, the money is distributed. Certain Deccan states in India, including Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, have always felt in the last 10 years that injustice has been done to them. They feel that most of the money is given to states like Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan, and Chhattisgarh, and Jharkhand, and Bihar, because these are slightly poor states. So the government feels the poorer a state, the more money should be given to it to support its social economic growth. Here, states like Kerala have a problem. They say that we get less money because we have a higher GDP, we have a higher contribution in national income, and we have a higher level of social economic development. So why should we get punished for that? Why are they giving us less money because we have developed too much or we have achieved too much success? Is that a mistake that we have done? That states which have higher population and they are having poverty get more money. And states like Kerala, which have successfully controlled their population and they have a high level of social economic growth, good GDP, they are given less money. Is that the kind of bias you are doing? Is that a punishment that the central government is giving to states for controlling population and achieving growth? That's the agenda that has been causing a problem to India's central state financial relationship. Today, the problem has once again come into light. As the data collected by the Comptroller and Auditor General report identifies that states like Uttar Pradesh are experiencing a revenue surplus of about 37,000 crore rupees, more than the revenue of states like Gujarat, which has the highest contribution to GDP. Uttar Pradesh is experiencing a revenue of 37,000 crore. But the article is saying such estimations are very, very superficial. Such estimations are very, very fake. They are very, very artificial, because on the paper, Uttar Pradesh may have got a revenue surplus from 37,000. In reality, it is not an indicator of the financial health of a state. In India, various reports are giving a wrong estimation on the real condition of states' financial situation. For example, sometimes these studies are failing to understand what is the revenue structure of the states. How much are the states spending? How much is the central borrowing going to that state? And how much is the welfare expenditure of that state? For example, today I tell you a small thing. I say, for example, I have rupees 50,000 in my hands. I can do whatever I want. I am a rich person. You will say, if you have 50,000 to 1 lakh rupees, yes, you have a lot of money. You can do whatever you want. But what if I have not told you the reality? That in this 50,000, I have to pay 10,000 rent also. 5,000 rupees I have to pay to a friend which I have borrowed. 10,000 are my expenditure. Another 6,000 goes because I have to give it to my sister who needs money. Ultimately, 50,000 is not the money that I have for myself. Out of that 50,000, anyway, I will be spending 40,000 on giving my loan, helping my family, food consumption. So the real money that I have is only about 10% of that. I only have 10,000 rupees. 50,000 is a fake number, right? So similarly here, you can't say that a state has 37,000 rupees crore revenue. In reality, that state has a lot of problem inside. There is too much financial burden on the state. Because out of this revenue, the state has yet to give money to welfare policy. Majority of this money is not earned by the state. It is given by the union through the Central Finance Commission. Some of this is a loan. Some of them is a fluctuating income. So we cannot say. Every time the revenue will not going to be fixed, is not going to be fixed. For example, in rich states like Maharashtra and Gujarat. Look at Maharashtra. Maharashtra is a rich state. 70% of Maharashtra's revenue is generated internally. It is not coming from union government. Maharashtra itself creates that revenue. But poor states like Andhra Pradesh, they can only generate 9% revenue. Remaining is coming from central government as help. Uttar Pradesh, it is saying that I have an income of 37,000 rupees surplus revenue. But out of this, only 42% is generated through internal sources. The state of Uttar Pradesh has created only 42% revenue. All the remaining is coming from union government. So how can you say it has 37,000 rupees surplus? It is a false number. It doesn't show the reality that only the state is committing 42% income. Remaining is all coming as help from the center. Some states like Kerala have a very fluctuating income. For example, Kerala gets rupees 12,000 crore from lottery sale. But it is not the same every year. Lottery sale is very fluctuating. Odisha, a lot of money comes from mining sector, but the mining also return is fluctuating. It's not the same every year. Telangana comes from land sales, land acquisition. Again, that is very uncertain. Tomorrow, what if the government bans lottery? Tomorrow, what if the government bans mining? Where will these states get their money from? What is the implication of this? Implication is that majority of states are still continuing to depend on money that's coming from center. Vertical devolution of funds from Central Finance Commission to the State Finance Commission. It is not a revenue that has been created from inside by your own merit. It shows vertical imbalance also. That although the Central Finance Commission can decide how much money to give to which state, it is creating a problem. Some states are becoming too dependent on the central government for money, while others are feeling injustice is being done to them. Talking about India's borrowing patterns of states from 2023, there are states like Andhra, Bihar, and Rajasthan, Telangana, which have a debt, a loan of about 39% on their GDP. Then there are states like Gujarat, Karnataka, Haryana, which also borrow a lot of money from the center. 19 to 30% is the debt. Small states, Himachal, Punjab, Tripura, they are small. But the debt ratio that they have, the loans that they have are high, 48%, 45%, 30% respectively. After the pandemic, the problem only increased. There was no recovery. After GST, the problem only increased. There was no such recovery for many states. There is too much borrowing now in Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Rajasthan. Similarly, in states like Odisha, Uttar Pradesh, Tripura, although they are trying to cut, but still they borrow too much money from the government. Yes, delimitation is another problem. Absolutely. Absolutely, I agree. Well done, order. So this is the paradox that we are experiencing, that despite too much surplus, states still are heavily dependent on the central government. They still keep borrowing money outside their budget needs. There are welfare schemes that the government is already financing. PM Kisan, Ujjwala Yojana, Ayushman Bharat. Here already the central government is giving too much money to the states. But at least the remaining responsibility should be taken up by the states. But that's not happening. The poorer the state, the more it keeps borrowing. Then there are states like Kerala, Punjab. Their income is very volatile. It is very fluctuating, as I said. Kerala, most of the income is lottery income. Then, as I said, Odisha, most of the income is mining income. So, these are not sustainable sources of income. They will fluctuate. Plus, after the GST collection, the state revenue collection has further now started fluctuating. So, ultimately, it's the same problem. The states are still not self-sufficient. They continue to depend on the central government. And estimations which say that Uttar Pradesh has the revenue surplus of 37,000 rupees crore, are also misleading figures, because only 42% it is generating by its own. Remaining all the money is the borrowing. It will add up to the loan and the debt of the state. So in India, there is a huge diversity in the fiscal reality of various states. Now, quickly the question. With reference to the following statements regarding fiscal health, financial health of Indian states, look at the following statements. 1. Uttar Pradesh recorded a revenue surplus of 37,000 rupees crore, but only 42% of its revenue was generated by itself internally. Rest was all coming from union help, central help. Second, Kerala's revenue largely comes from lottery, Odisha's from mining, Telangana from land sales, all of which are stable and recurring sources of income. And 3, Punjab, Himachal and Tripura carry some of the highest debt to GDP burden among Indian states. That means there is a constant financial crisis. So which of these statements do you think is or are valid? Dipesh has already answered. Absolutely well answered, Dipesh. Yes. Second cannot be correct, because sources like lottery, sources like land sales and mining are very unstable incomes. They are not regular income. They keep fluctuating. So therefore, only the first and the third statement are valid. B absolutely is the correct answer. Very well done, Veda. Order is saying maybe we should give vertical devolution 70%. That's the debate right now. Whether 41% or whether 70%. It's a debate right now. Very well answered, Lenny, Vikash, Reshma. That's correct. Now quickly we'll finish the last two articles in 1-2 minutes each. The next article is about India's first space observatory. Very important. GS paper 3, Science, Technology, Defense, Space. India's first space observatory, Astrostat, has completed 10 years now in the space. It was launched back on 28 September 2015. Today on 29 September 2025, exactly 10 years have passed. It is a wonderful achievement because initially it was believed that Astrostat will only survive for 5 years, but today it has survived and been operational for 10 years. It was launched back in 2015 by the PSLV C-30 XL rocket from the Satish Dhawan Space Center at Sriharikota. Yes, it was India's first multi-wavelength space laboratory, and that's why it is unique. Multi-wavelength space observatory, which means through various kinds of light wavelengths, short wavelength, long wavelength, it could still do observations and collect data. So observations was possible through various kind of electromagnetic domains, ultraviolet, visible rays, X-rays. This is not common to majority of observatories, but Astrostat had that unique thing, that whether it was ultraviolet, visible or X-ray, any kind of medium, Astrostat could observe and collect a lot of important data. So it was able to observe many, many heavenly objects at the same time across various wavelengths. That is a very unique feature that doesn't happen to most of the observatories because it had some extra smart components like ultraviolet image telescope, large area X-ray proportional counter, cadmium zinc telluride imager, advanced level of camera, soft X-ray scope, scanning sky monitor. With this, it was able to observe many heavenly bodies, and ultimately it provided us huge important data on high intensity astronomic objects like the black holes, the neutron stars, and remote galaxies in the space. So very important development there. Now the next article is about how Iran has completely rejected and shown anger about renewed sanctions on Iran. If you remember, just last week we had spoken about the JCPOA. That was a joint pact that was created by European Union and certain countries of America, that we will allow Iran to conduct its nuclear facility enrichment, provided Iran is ready for investigation by the International Atomic Energy Agency. And if Iran is following protocols, it can be allowed, it will be allowed to conduct nuclear program. But suddenly, out of the blue, President Trump chose to cancel the agreement and he stepped out of it. He said, I am not listening to this agreement and Iran will be imposed with sanctions. As soon as US did this, many other countries of European Union, they also followed doing the same. Whether it was UK, Germany or France, they did the same thing. They cancelled the JCPOA and invoked a provision that is called snapback provision. Under snapback provision, the JCPOA was cancelled and once again all the sanctions were reimposed on Iran. Now, this has been taken very negatively by Iran against countries who are involved in this action, including EU, UK, Germany, France, and many other countries. The sanctions today that they are reimposing are about completely banning Iran's nuclear and ballistic missile program. Second, they will also stop various members of the United Nations to engage in any trade, investment, cooperation with regards to nuclear and missile sectors of Iran. How has Iran reacted? Very sharply. Iran is angry. Iran says it is completely US diktat that's going on, and this is unjustifiable because Iran says it had allowed IAEA inspection. Then also it was attacked very badly. Fardow, Natanz, Bushehr, all these plants were attacked by America and Israel together. This is not justice at all. And it says it will stand to defend its national rights and interests. It has also urged various countries not to follow the sanctions coming from US and UK and other EU nations. And Iran says, and it continues to say, that my nuclear program is for peaceful purpose. I have no intention in doing any kind of nuclear weapons. US has blamed me wrongly. So the war is going on. And now the last observation, you must have seen in the news already that there was a massive accident that took place on Saturday night in a place called Karur in Tamil Nadu during a political rally. Okay, and during the political rally, there was a mass gathering. And after that, what happened? There was huge kind of stampede that took place. And this was highlighting not just this isolated event, but in general, the susceptibility in India of mob stampede, killing, and huge problem, huge disaster that results in a poor management of crowds in India. Quite recently in India, in Bengaluru, the RCB controversy also came to light. As the RCB was celebrating inside the victory in the IPL, there were many poor fans who died outside because of stampede. That time also huge furore was created. Now today at the same time something similar is happening in Karur. So we need better disaster management here. We need better crowd management here, okay? In India, we still lack proper crowd management, emergency protocols, fire exit, stampede exit systems, creating awareness among people about how to escape by creating narrow exits. Proper staff to manage the events is still missing. So this is something we need to work upon. Also, political parties can do rallies in phases rather than a one collected event where multiple people gather. So all the citizen awareness and volunteers who can manage crowd could go a long way in solving the problem. And now, my dear, I take your leave for today's session. And before I leave, here's a quick reminder to all of you. On 30th September, we will be ending our massive sale. And the sale celebrates Study IQ IS. Huge milestone as 20 million subscribers have joined us. Purely, it is your love, your support. It's all because of you. So here we offer you a good sale that starts from rupees 20,000 only for various GS Foundation courses. You can apply for these courses, particularly if you are applying for UPSC 2026 and 27. Evening batches are also going on. This will also enable you good discounted price for optional. Please use the code SPLIVE on the screen if you are willing to apply for the sale. And if you need more information, you can also let us know and we will get back to you. And it's valid till 30th September. That's tomorrow. Thank you so much, Vikash. Thank you so much, Silti. Thank you so much, Veda. Thank you so much, Dipesh. In fact, each one of you, Saurav, Reshma, Lenny, that was really nice of you. Very participative. Thank you, Order, and all people here. Actually, thank you very much. Okay, so I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you, Pranarthi. I'll see you tomorrow with another very interesting Hindu session. Take care. Bye bye.